Hi, welcome to your mind-body connection. My name is Xandra, and today we are going to be doing a tutorial on how to create more strength and flexibility for one of the most common poses in our Vinyasa Flow practice, but what I believe to be one of the most under-taught, which is Chaturanga Dandasana. So this pose requires a deeper understanding and comprehension on what needs to be strong in the body, how we can align ourselves into this pose that brings support, that brings healthy alignment into it. So we're not creating habitual patterns that then start to wear and tear on the shoulder joint. So we'll start by simplifying, feeling different parts of the body and what needs to be strong and how we can engage into that muscular strength. And then we'll start to work through the pose. So having two blocks and either a yoga strap or a resistant band can be helpful. I'm going to show you ways to come into it where it gives you a better idea of how low you should actually be going in this pose. If you do not have those props, no worries at all. You'll still feel the alignment and a deeper understanding within it. So let's get started lying on our backs. And as you come onto your back, just bring your hands to your belly and just take a moment to arrive. So just close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths, creating that shift from whatever it is that you were doing before to now landing in your body and focusing on your inner strength as well as your physical strength. Take just a few more deep breaths, just settling in, feeling more present in this moment. And then now opening your eyes and flexing through your feet in a way where you bring some activation into your legs. So the legs are working pretty hard in Chaturanga. And we also want to feel into the container of our core, this core strength. So the muscles hugging in to that midpoint of your core. So having your hands on your belly reminds you of that action of hugging the low belly in and up. So feeling into that core stability for your low back especially. So keep pressing your hands into your belly. And then now just lifting your right heel a few inches away from the mat. And then lower back down. Now lifting your left heel a couple inches away and then lowering back down. And we're going to alternate doing that. So you're bringing a lot of activation into your legs as you alternate lifting them just a few inches away from your mat. And then keep pressing your front ribs back in space. Keep hugging low belly in and up. So it's a very subtle movement here. It might not feel very challenging to do, but it's reminding you of what you should be feeling in that pose where you're engaging the muscles of your legs as much as you can, flexing through your feet, and also feeling the connection to your core, your center. So let's just do a couple more of these. Try not to let your low back lift too much. Now finishing out from right to left. And release. Now plank and chaturanga require a pretty deep flexion of our wrists. So that requires flexibility. So while we're lying on our back, we'll just start to work into stretching through our wrist. Take your left hand against the palm of your right hand, work towards your fingers, and then start to stretch your fingers back. So feel into this deeper flexion of your wrist. Notice your flexibility. And then moving to your left side. So right hand against your left palm, work towards your fingertips, and then draw the fingertips back towards your arm. And moving back to the right. So just stretching, feeling into the flexion of your wrist. And remember, it can take time to build into strength and flexibility within our wrists for these poses. And then last time on the left, draw the fingers back. Release. Now hug your knees in towards your belly, rock a little bit from side to side. And then either rock and roll your way up to seated, or you can just roll over to your side if that feels better. Now just taking a moment to think about the muscles around your shoulder girdle. So what often happens in Chaturanga Dandasana, and I'll show you what I see most common in people's bodies in this pose, is this tendency to collapse into the front of the shoulders, to pour the weight forward into them, because we're not using the entire shoulder girdle to stabilize before lowering down. So what I often see in this pose is this collapsing forward, pouring forward into the front of the shoulders, and then you're trying to scoop your way into your back bend. And what that does over time is it can really wear on your shoulder joint. You're pouring forward into the shoulder joint. You're pouring forward into your rotator cuff and the tendons of your shoulder. And over time, that can create some bad habits within the shoulder as far as more vulnerability for injury. And we want to feel strong and stable and safe in our yoga practice, especially Vinyasa Flow, when we tend to move more at a quicker pace with linking breath with movement. So what we want to try to feel, and we'll kind of start in this more simple way, is this activation of the muscles surrounding your shoulder girdle, not just the front of the shoulders, where we tend to be a little bit more strong. Okay, so start by just bringing your right hand forward and then bringing your left hand right against your shoulder blade, your scapula. And what we want to feel is this plugging back, head of the humerus, back into the shoulder joint. And then the scapula, the shoulder blade, moving slightly down your back. And then also there's some activation into the front of the shoulder, into your pecs as well. So there's this hugging in also of your arm. So you're kind of feeling into that. And then we'll move to the left side. So left arm forward. Take your right hand against your left shoulder blade scapula. You're plugging the head of the humerus, your arm bone back into the shoulder socket. Shoulder blade slightly down your back. And then there's this hugging in of your inner shoulder, your inner arm, to feel into that engagement. So we're utilizing the strength of the shoulder girdle and not just the front of the shoulder. So now we're going to feel that with both of our arms forward. So start by pushing forward into your hands. So we do that in our yoga practice where we're really pressing into the hands. We're feeling the shoulder blades broaden away from the spine. We can feel that in our plank pose. But then now feel that action of plugging back, shoulder blades down, and then we're squeezing in slightly with our arms. So we're feeling into that engagement there. And then now start to bend your elbows and bring them close into your ribs as you draw the arms back. So that is the action we want to feel in our chaturanga. So press forward once again, plug back, down, in, and then bend your elbows as you bring your arms back. Okay, now we're going to try to feel that in a supported position of our plank and our chaturanga. So let's start by just feeling into a little bit more of that scapula movement. This actually helps to strengthen the muscles around your shoulder blades as well. So you're just coming into a modified plank. Knees are a little bit back behind your hips. And then you're feeling into the low belly hugging in and up. So that activation we brought onto our back. And then now just start to draw the shoulder blades together and then broaden the shoulder blades apart. So just feel into that movement. Shoulder blades together, retraction, shoulder blades apart. And this is just helping to turn on the muscles around your shoulder girdle, feeling into more strength, more stability there. Noticing the movement of your shoulder blades. Let's just do a couple more. And then release, just take a moment, rest your shoulders, rest your hands. So when we start to feel into our Chaturanga Dandasana, what we want to think about is the pose we're leading into. The pose we're going into after that is either cobra or upward facing dog. It's a back bend, it's a heart opener. So we want to remain lifted through the chest, rather than collapsing down as I was showing you before, so we can move into our back bend with more ease. And we're not having to work so hard to lift up into it. So as we come into it, we will come into the modified first. And remember, modifications isn't something negative. It's not like you're doing something less. You're just doing something different in a way that supports your body. So your knees are a little bit back behind your hips. You're grounding down as much as you can through your hands, knuckles of the fingers. Hug low belly in and up. So remember that connection to your core. Now we're shifting a little bit forward over the wrists. And then feel into that activation that we did when we were seated. You're feeling the heads of your shoulder plug back, shoulder blades down your back, and then you're squeezing in. So think about trying to squeeze your inner arms towards each other. Now lift through the chest and then lower just about halfway. So we want to either keep the shoulders in line with the elbows or a little bit above. And what that also is helpful with is moving into our back bend with more ease. So your elbows are squeezing in, your heart is lifted, you're feeling the strength of your body. And then release. You can take the child's pose for a moment. And then moving back forward. So now we will try from our plank pose. And I know that because Vinyasa Flow practices are linking breath with movement, we don't have a lot of time to think about our alignment in this practice. So what this tutorial is doing is to create healthy habits, awareness of how you should be feeling in your chaturanga. You can practice that. Maybe you've created some unhealthy habits in this pose that you're trying to reset and come into that awareness with just a better understanding of how it should feel. And it can take time to break habits. So this is for your practice to get more comfortable within this pose. And your body will thank you for better alignment in this pretty challenging pose, right? It's hard to hold it. It's hard to build strength. It takes time, patience, and awareness. Okay, so we're coming into our plank pose. And just like we were feeling on our back, right? Your legs are really engaged. You're pressing back through the heels. Hug muscle to bone. Low belly in and up. Feel that connection to your core. Now we shift slightly forward over the wrists. There's that lift through my chest, but I'm not dumping my hips down. So I'm staying strong in my plank, but I'm thinking, hey, I'm about to be in a back bend after this pose. So you're shifting slightly forward. You're plugging in, shoulder blades down, squeeze hands and our arms together, gaze a little bit forward, and then now we lower just halfway, elbows hugging in. Try not to collapse forward into your shoulder, so shoulders are either aligned with your elbows or a little bit above. And then come back up and take a rest. So I did want to show you how the props can be helpful. This typically works with most body proportions. Is having the blocks there at that high height is a good indication of how low you should be going. So as you come into it, if you do have your blocks, if not, you can just keep practicing without. So we're shifting slightly forward over the toes. There's that lift through the chest, engagement through the core and legs. We're shifting forward, feeling all that engagement of your shoulder girdle, all that strength there. And then as you lower, wherever your shoulders come onto the blocks is how low you typically should go. And then come back up and release. It is a lot of work to move slowly through it, to hold it. You're doing great. Okay, so either a yoga strap, shoulder width apart, or I kind of like to use a resistant band because it allows for that work to happen a little bit more with your arms, right? If you're creating a little bit of resistance there, helps to build into that arm strength. So as you come into it, same kind of setup, same kind of awareness. Everything is turned on, full body strength here. We shift over the toes, plug in, down, squeeze in, gaze slightly forward, lower just about halfway, and then wherever your ribs hit the resistant band or the yoga strap is a good indication of how low you should go. And then come back up and release. Let it go. Notice how you feel. Stronger, more aware of your alignment. And then lastly, thinking about the transition from Chaturanga to either Cobra or upward facing dog. Now, if you are struggling in Chaturanga, you feel like you need to build into your shoulder strength, your wrist strength, your leg strength, I recommend doing Cobra pose because upward facing dog, arms are straight, thighs are lifted, and it requires a lot of arm and leg strength and core activation to lift and lengthen into that back bend rather than collapsing into the low back, which can create issues with time. So as you come into your Chaturanga, a couple different things we can think about. So again, shifting forward, plug in, down, engage, lower halfway. Now, if you are coming to Cobra, lower all the way down, but you're staying lifted through the chest. Lift and lengthen, elbows are bent, hips are down. Gaze more forward or even up if that feels okay. Releasing back down. Now, if you are transitioning into upward facing dog, you know that that's okay for your back. You have the strength to move into it from Chaturanga. You don't lower all the way down. You can transition just from Chaturanga there. So shifting forward, feeling into all that awareness and strength, lower. And then from there, you come onto the tops of your feet and come into your upward facing dog. Again, everything is turned on here to get out of my low back. Legs are strong, arms are straight, heart is lifted. And then you can make your way back into your down dog or take child's pose. And then now just release and come to seated. And just remember that anytime we are building into strength, stability, deeper awareness of alignment, maybe reversing some bad alignment habits that we've created and not really to our own fault. It requires that patience and self-compassion, and just with practice, you will start to feel more ease, more strength, more stability, and your shoulders will thank you for it. Thank you so much for joining me for this Chaturanga Dandasana tutorial. I hope you learned something, carry it with you, come back to it anytime, and I hope to see you on your mat soon. Have a great rest of your day.